Hey, how's everybody doing? Well, I thought I'd holler at everybody a minute. Y'all know, I don't like to talk about religion, but I do live in an area that is very Bible belty kind of people. Mostly Christians here. There are a few Muslims, and maybe there were a few Hindus. I'm not sure if they're still here or not. They used to own one of the motels. But as far as myself, I'm not a Christian. I was raised in the Christian church. One of my brothers was a minister. Two of my cousins were ministers. So I was raised in the type of family that took you to church and taught you about religion. But I also had a mind that was very analytical. When I read something, I wanted to. It had to feel right to me. How did this happen? I'm not one that believes in fantasy. Things happen for a reason. I want to know the reason. So at about age 12, I realized that something wasn't up to snuff in the Christian religion. So even though I had took catechism, went through all of that, became a member of my Lutheran church, had to get up and give sermons and all that. People were thinking I was going to be a preacher someday. But at that time, I was realizing that I didn't believe in what they were teaching. I've tried to study all religions in my lifetime, even though I do believe there's something out there. I do believe in a hereafter. I do believe that there's somewhere that we go. I just don't know the whole reason behind it. I believe in reincarnation. I believe a lot of the religions have little bits and pieces of what it really is, but they don't have a full grasp. I don't think most humans could accept what the full reality is. I just say no, that I believe that life is continuing. I believe that what you put out in this universe will come back to you eventually, whether it's bad or whether it's good. So that's kind of how I feel about religion. I don't believe in any one religion. When they say you're going to hell for the things you do and the life you live and the choices you make, I do believe that we'll all have to, in some way, pay for our mistakes. We're having to learn from those mistakes. But it's nothing like hell. There's nothing like forever suffering. No. We all are trying to get somewhere in our soul growth, and those decisions that we make can put us back. But it's not putting anyone into a place they can't get out of. So I try to be good to everybody as long as they're good with me. When I see they're not, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. You fuck with me and I fuck with you. But I'm not going to start it. No. I usually bend over backwards to try to be good with people. But you know, I did continue to go to church. I took my mother, and I was taking her to the church that she grew up in, Vernon Baptist Church. She was a Vernon. The church was started by her great-grandmother, who had been a pioneer that came on a wagon train. I mean, these were grassroots people. So I would take her to that church. And they had this minister, and I had met the minister a couple of times and broke bread with him, because every time they would come, they would have a dinner afterwards in the fellowship hall. And everybody got to spend time with the minister and his wife. So I had had good visits with this man. And then he started preaching on homosexuality. And then every time that I would take my mother, he would preach that same sermon again and say that he had another sermon in mind until he got there, and that God told him he should do this sermon on homosexuality. And I know he was throwing that at me. I know that was the only reason, this small congregation. It took him a while before he was finally told by somebody that I was a post-op transsexual. And in those people's minds, I was a homosexual who had mutilated my body. And even if that were the case, if it was my sin, it was my sin. I was the one that would pay for it. And here I was taking care of my mother, who was in a wheelchair in a hospital bed. Did I deserve to be talked to like that in a sermon every time that I brought my mother? I don't think, and even if I had been some kind of a pervert, that I deserved to be talked to that way whenever I was taking care of my mother and bringing her to church. Well, the first couple of times, she really didn't catch on what was going on with the preacher. She was just so glad to be there, you know, to fellowship with these people. Some she had known since childhood. And then, the last time, as soon as he started talking about that God told him to change his sermon and speak about this, and he started about the homosexual shit. Mama looked at me, and I looked at Mama. And I said, I'll be back when this is over. And I got up, and I looked at that preacher. And I turned around just like the demon that I know he thought I was. And I left.